First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessor, transmitting masters, lectures, and everyone here today for the opportunity to talk about, continue discussing this 15 rules, temple rules, regulations. Okay, so last week we finished number 5 and 6. So today we continue with number 7. Okay, so yeah, and then you can see that there's always the inner, you can say the internal or inner aspect of these rules and regulations. So that kind of all comes from, you can say, from that number, the first one, respecting the Buddha. So it's talking about the internal side of things. And so a lot of these temple rules, they're not just talking about mundane stuff, you know. So, so as they relate to our cultivation, so therefore they would definitely have something to do with, you could say, the internal side, the spiritual nature, our Buddha nature. Okay. So although this number 7, be humble and kind, is, you can say it's pretty straightforward. Okay. But obviously it's kind of like the expression, being humble and kind, is an expression of our Buddha nature. All right. So be humble and kind, not only towards Chenshin, right? Chenshin are you can say the worthies, and then not just the seniors or elders, but anyone who's worthy, who's virtuous, right? The transmitters and lectors, but to everyone. Okay, so, but having a humble and kind attitude when doing things, they can be easily completed without a hitch. Okay. Now, Holy Teacher says, right, so think about this carefully. As a Tao cultivator, should we be humble and kind towards everyone? And those who have studied the Book of Changes, the I Ching, right, know that of the 64 hexagrams, right, 63 are either inauspicious with good, having, you know, and also, but having a good fortune, you know, having some good fortune, or having good fortune or blessings, I guess, but they're inauspicious. So in other words, they're not completely good, right? They're not. They're like maybe half and half. There's some good aspect, and then there's some kind of a negative side to it. To those hexagrams. So it's all 63. There's only one hexagram, number 64. Well, I don't know if it's the 64th one, but there's one hexagram called Chen, which is, you know, this first word, humble, basically. The humble hexagram that is completely auspicious. So that's 100%, you can say it's 100% good, positive. Right? Only good fortune without misfortune. Why? The Book of Changes says, humble, right, smoothly progressing without trouble, and to prosper or prosperous, right, flourish, to thrive, succeed. Okay, so a Junzi, which is a superior person, saint or sage, is always consistent from beginning to end in terms of being humble. Okay, therefore, when our attitude is humble, when we do things, then you know, it's basically everything will go smoothly when we're doing things. Okay, there won't be, in other words, we won't create more obstacles. Okay, and things should go smoothly, and we'll be able to complete whatever we're doing, complete it without a hitch. All right, so so that's very important. This humble attitude, that we bring this humble attitude into everything that we do, and not just things that we do dealing with matters, but also with people, dealing with others. Always being humble, that's always the best. Okay, so obviously, you know, you can't contrast that with what we see. Excuse me, what we see in society. Right, it's all about me, right? You know, we're forced to have an ego to get ahead. imagine if you go to a job interview and they ask you, "Oh, what can you do? What are your achievements, accomplishments?" You say, "Oh, no, I haven't really done much." Well, being very modest and humble, that wouldn't go very well with the interviewer, right? So unfortunately, that's society looks. I mean, okay, so maybe that's a special case, but in general, but even then, we shouldn't be arrogant. Definitely not arrogant. We shouldn't be too boastful. We should be truthful, and I mean, even if we are very accomplished and capable, actually, well, in the Tao, like I think the Tao Te Ching, right, it talks about, yeah, we kind of hide really a true someone who's truly capable kind of hides their talents, but like I said, that kind of goes contrary to what society expects of us, or so so we have to kind of strike a balance sometimes within society, but at the same time, always try to be humble, whenever we can, wherever we can. Okay. So practically speaking, right, humble means that there is no ego, there's no self. Saints and sages and Buddhas, right, they're all without self, right? They're all selfless. They've gotten rid of that idea of self, right? The four images, the me, the you, etc. So they are one. They have achieved. They've become one. One with what? One with everything. One with all. One with everyone. Okay, so that is the ultimate. Right? That is the ultimate humble. Being humble. Right? There is no more ego. No more self. This I. The reason why we cannot be humble is because of that ego, that I, the sense of self. All right. So therefore, these, Jingzi or saints, sages, Buddhas, right? They're all the epitome, right? The essence or embodiment of being humble, and that's something really that we is worthy of our, we should learn from and try to emulate that. Again, the balance. We do need some amount of ego, I guess. That's not necessarily ego, but confidence. Let's put it that way. Self-confidence in society, or it doesn't matter in society, even in the temple, anywhere, anytime. But always try to be humble. Being humble means that we are closer to the Buddha nature, the true nature, because the Buddha nature has no self, right? So it is the completely humble. So the humble demeanor comes from cultivating one's nature, all right, or one's true nature. And it's not forced or we're reluctant to express that. Only the Jingzi, right, the superior person, can be humble and kind from beginning to end without being arrogant. Okay, so in the I Ching, in the Book of Changes, right, it says the way of humanity kind of abhors or hates the excess, okay, but it likes modesty. So everyone hates people who are full of arrogance, but they like people who are humble and righteous, and I think that's generally true. I mean, at least maybe 99% of the people. There's the 1% who, because they're a certain type of person that they look up to those people who like kind of you could say kind of arrogant. So, but I would say at least 99% of people prefer to be around those who are humble and righteous, okay, and not arrogant. So that's I think is a true statement. So this is a Jingzi with moral virtue and the highest expression of inner self-cultivation, because he has relinquished the self completely and respects all sentient beings. Therefore, humility and kindness is revealing the Buddha within. Okay, so having relinquished that self, the I, the ego, right? Only then can we really respect all sentient beings, right? Because this respect of all sentient beings, to really, well, I mean, when we say respect here, it's like fully, completely respecting. So it's not like saying, oh yeah, okay, I kind of respect the person or respect this animal, but yet at the same time, I think it's okay to eat them, or or whatever, or say some bad things occasionally or whatever. That's not complete respect. Okay, so when we get rid of the ego, get rid of that self, then we can have that 100% respect, and that really means just like the Buddha, where there is no self, they are one. They are one with all sentient beings. Okay, so that's what we can say is complete respect. All right, because there's one. There's no separation. Okay. So this is this humility and kindness that is revealing that Buddha within our Buddha nature, the true nature within us, and so that's what we strive to do. Okay. So when we humble and calm ourselves, right, we do not differentiate between you and me, right? No duality of right and wrong. At this moment, that true self is revealed and is also the manifestation of the Buddha nature. Therefore, humble and kind people are certain to attain the Tao or Nirvana. Okay, so right, because like once you get rid of the self, there we are one. Okay, so one with everything, one with all sentient beings. Right? There's no more four images. There's no separation, no subjectivity, no duality. So that is the essence. Well, that is the characteristic, okay, if you will, of the true self, the Buddha nature, right? So, Holy Teacher here is saying that only such humble and kind people can truly attain the Tao. Return to heaven and achieve, have achievement, returning to heaven and achieve nirvana. This is, I guess, similar to what Jesus said, right? The humble or the meek shall inherit the earth, something like that, and say, that the child, we have to become like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. Generally, we think of the child as being pure and innocent. That's true, but it also, they're very humble. Right? They have no arrogance. They're not proud of themselves. The child, the infant, has no. Well, at that point, has a very little, if any, of this ego or self. Okay, that develops over time as we grow up. All right, and so that's the other characteristic, and so Jesus says the same thing. Now, on the contrary, right, arrogant people who look down on others definitely cannot attain the Tao because they have not dispelled subjectivity, the four images, and still have attachments. Right? There's still the attachment, if to nothing else, to themselves, to the ego, to the self. Okay, and then unfortunately, once you have that attachment, you're going to have subjectivity. Right? The four images. There's going to be this distinction, separation between me and you. Okay, me and others. And then you're going to have the idea of, based on the five skandhas of, this life, that's me, this personality, it's me. Okay, so these are all attachments. But ultimately, to attain Tao, to achieve, right, this lotus platform, right, there's a, if we achieve, right, we return to heaven, just like the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, saints, immortals, they all have basically like this lotus platform. It's kind of basically a symbol of their achievement, and it's reserved for the humble and kind. So disciples, if we want to become Buddhas, then how can we not be humble and kind, right? So obviously that's, you could say that this is basically, it's a requirement. I mean, it's definitely a requirement, right? In fact, if we are arrogant, what do we become? We cannot attain the Tao. but potentially we become an asura. Okay, so an asura is generally, I mean, we think of them as being like the evil, the demons. Okay, and because they are they have cultivated, they have merits. The problem is that their virtue, just like they are lacking in virtue. So like being humble, for example. All right, so we don't want to become an asura. Asura, they're not like they haven't transcended the cycle of reincarnation. Okay, so that's one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. So asura is not a good thing, right? And plus, today in this time right now, we are in this period of universal salvation, where the Tao cultivators will also are being tested by asuras. Okay. So we have to be very careful. I mean, I think that's talked about a little bit later in one of the other ones. But yeah. So okay. Right. Okay. So the modest person humbles himself, right? Respects others and harmonizes with the crowd, with a bunch, whoever they're with. Right, that's a kind of a sign of being humble, is to be able to be in harmony with others, because you're not without the ego. Without the ego, having the ego means that we probably have like if we use like an analogy of like like a rock, right, that has sharp edges, sharp pointy parts to it. Okay, so then of course it becomes when you rub against other rocks, right? Then there would be conflict, right? And it can harm others, or people, obviously others will not like that. So definitely being humble, we won't do that. Okay, so we'll be able to pretty much get along with anyone. Being humble, one can be taught by and learn from others, right? So this is also a case where if I'm arrogant, if I think I know everything, maybe not everything, but at least I think, I know something, and therefore I think I know a lot. Okay, this is a common problem. It's like there's that saying, right? When a little knowledge can be dangerous. Right? We think that we know it all, but we don't. Okay, so so really the only way to learn is to be humble, to realize that, hey, I don't know everything, and there's still much that I can learn. Now, even though maybe even stuff that I may already know, right? I can still be taught, or I can still learn something more about that. And perhaps, in a lot of things. I mean, if, I may know how to do something in a certain way, and I might think, that's pretty good, the way I'm doing it. And yet, if we think that, oh, okay, yeah, this is the best way, then I'm not going to learn from anyone else how to do it even better, right? So we should always be humble in the sense that, yeah, we're always willing to learn, no matter what it is, even if we say we know it already, we know how to do it, but perhaps someone can actually teach us an even better way. Okay, not necessarily teach directly, but we have to, if we are observing, if we watch someone doing something, we can learn from them, right? If that's actually how we should always be. It's not like someone's doing something and I don't pay attention. It's like, has nothing to do with me, or I know how to do it, so why bother? Why do I have to pay attention? But actually, that's the wrong attitude. The right attitude is, no matter what, we see something, we should always pay attention. We should always be aware what they're doing, and we might see something, we might learn something. We say, hey, wow, I do it this way, but that person I see, they're doing it, seems like it's in a better way. and then we've learned something, we've gained something. Okay, so that but this all comes with that humble attitude, right? If we have any bit of arrogance, we're not going to learn, right? So I mean, there's that I guess the well-known little that Zen story, I guess, of the master, right? Where the student seeking I guess knowledge or some teachings from the master goes to visit the master. Master pours him a cup of tea, and he pours and pours and keeps pouring until it's overflowing. And the student say, whoa, wait, the cup is overflowing. And the master then says, well, your mind is overflowing with stuff, right? I mean, the student is kind of full of, he thinks he's full of knowledge. He's full of himself. He's full of the ego, okay? And so therefore, the master can see that. And so this is kind of a teaching point to teach, to let that student know that, well, hey, you're kind of either arrogant or, you have attachments to your own ideas or your own knowledge, and maybe you're coming in kind of skeptical that you can learn something, right? That's the wrong attitude. See, if we go in having skepticism about whether we can actually learn something, then that's going to be an obstacle to us actually learning something. Okay, so again, so attitude is very important. Attitude is very important, right? In everything we do, and then and we might not think about it, but it's in everything, in every moment of our lives. Our attitude, we should have the right attitude. If we can have that right attitude, then our lives will be much better. I mean, we'll be able to learn a lot more, and we'll be able to get along with people, and not create more problems for ourselves, and make things more smooth. All right. Okay. So being respectful. One can be respected by others, so it's kind of respect is kind of like a two-way street. We can't say, I'm because of my seniority, because of my status, that people should respect me, but I don't necessarily have to respect them back. It doesn't work that way, right? If I am, it doesn't matter who I am. I mean, if I let's say like right now, I'm here giving this class. And I'm saying, you guys all don't know anything. You guys are dummies. Then that's disrespecting the audience, right? Disrespecting the students, for one. And that kind of attitude doesn't go over very well. I mean, if I don't respect, if the teacher is not respecting the students, then the students, why would they respect the teacher, and why would they listen to the teacher? So it's very important that we realize that it is two-way. It's two-way street, and I've said before that we have to earn our respect. Okay, we can't. It can't be like an expectation. Say, it's automatic that I should get it. Right? It's not. I guess you could say respect. Getting respect is not a right. It's a privilege. Okay, that we have to earn it, and we have to do the right thing. Be humble. In order to get that respect. Being harmonious, one can be coveted by others, right? People definitely like, just like said in the I Ching, right? That people like those who are modest, and those who are modest and humble can be more easily be harmonious because they don't have that ego, right? And so therefore you can get along with others, and people therefore will naturally kind of be attracted to that, and so I can give kind of my life experience. I've been in the past. I've lived. I've had roommates, and when. At times, these two other roommates they don't get along. They have a big argument over stuff, and they all each come to me as kind of like I mean, because I'm kind of like neutral, right? I'm not taking sides or anything, and so they each come to me and try to convince me that they're right or whatever. That's maybe, I don't know if that's fortunate or unfortunate, but if we're humble, we're harmonious, we'll be in that situation. Okay, but at least we don't become like enemies with anyone, right? Whereas they might become enemies, but we will not make enemies that way. Okay, and potentially, ideally, of course, then we try to help resolve the situation between them, right? That's the ideal situation. That's what we should try to do our best to do. Okay. So as Chen, we must be humble and kind in order to teach and guide others. Be confident, but not arrogant. Okay, so again, the confidence, we have to be confident, but not, if we are maybe overly confident, then we might start, that might start be bordering on being arrogant. Okay, but yeah, we have to have that self-confidence, definitely, because that's also important for us to be able to achieve, to progress, to do better, or to do, to be able to handle ourselves or handle any matters in any situation. Okay, we have to have that confidence. Even though we may not necessarily know. See, a lot of people are afraid because they don't have that knowledge. They don't have the know-how, or they say they don't have the ability to do something, and so they shy away from it. They say no, they refuse. But actually, self-confidence, having confidence is, it can help. I mean, we may, even if we don't know everything, we don't know that much, but if we have that confidence, we have to have that faith in ourselves, faith in that Buddha nature, okay? Let the Buddha nature guide us, right, in the doing. And so, yes, we may not know the knowledge, but yeah, if we have the confidence, so that's one aspect, but we also need to have the will, right, the resolve, the determination to want to really succeed in doing something, even if we may be somewhat, not very comfortable because we don't know perhaps how to do something, completely or whatever. But at least, if we have the right attitude, again, this is all coming down to attitude, right? There are just different aspects of attitude, like being humble, being confident, right? Having the will, that all come together to help us to achieve something that potentially that we may think that we wouldn't be able to do. Okay, so, and that's how people, in other words, we have to push ourselves. Okay, we have to push ourselves. Then no one else can do this for us, right? This is all, this attitude that's coming from within, right? So that's something that we all have to learn to we have to work on that. Okay, so too many times, encounter situations, people, it's like, they're not sure they can do it, so they don't want to do it because they're afraid, whatever, that their English is not good enough, for example, to give class, or they don't know, maybe they've never done the propriety, for dedicating a temple, but hey, there's always a first time, and if we go in with the right attitude, you'll be surprised at what you can accomplish, what you can do. And maybe you won't do it perfectly, you won't do it very well, but still, that's a start. Once you in order to build, confidence is kind of thing. That maybe initially it's hard to have confidence when you don't know how to do it. But once you have experience, that's a way to build your confidence, right? So the more experience we have, even though the experiences may not be that good initially, because we're just learning, but they are confidence builders, and we must go through that process, because if we don't go through that process, we're never going to increase our confidence, right? So then it's kind of like a catch-22, and you have to. Therefore, we have to take that leap, right, and do it. All right, just do it. Okay, so. All right, and then so humility, kindness, and harmony is the manifestation of Buddha nature, right? So these are basically characteristics of the Buddha nature. We can call them like virtues, if you will. Okay, so same thing. A temple and Tao community, right, depends on humility, kindness, and harmony to progress and expand. Yeah, I mean, in the temple, if you have it doesn't have to be everyone. Maybe if you have a few people who are kind of arrogant, it's not going to. There's going to be problems, okay, in that temple. So the Tao community, everyone has to come together. They all have to be in harmony. They all have to be humble and kind to each other. That's how we can all help each other to succeed. That's kind of giving everyone positive reinforcement to progress, right? So the other stuff, arrogance, or the things kind of the opposite of these things, not being kind, not being harmonious. These are all kind of negative things that will become serious obstacles to the ultimate success of the temple and the cultivators in the temple, right? All right, so yeah, so obviously, so this one is, well, all of these are very important, but obviously this one is kind of something that everyone should be able to understand, what it is to be humble and kind, that this is, it should be something that we realize that, yeah, every day in our dealings with people and matters and everything, that we should try to be humble and kind. All right. Okay, so now next one, number 8, do not discard the holy teachings. Okay. So holy teachings are the scriptures and writings left behind by saints and sages. Right? It can also mean the recorded words of Buddhas, saints, and sages. Right? These are all words of the truth, right? Because they are speaking the truth. And then so they are the teachings that guide people to change from evil to good, from ignorant to and confused to awakened and enlightened, right? Because the Buddhas, saints, sages, they've all went through the same process that we've gone through, right? They're also human beings, just like we are. It's just that they're in a different stage, if you will, of towards enlightenment. They're in a higher stage, okay? That they've gone, but they've all experienced the things that we've experienced, and but they've gone beyond, right? They've transcended, and so their teachings, what their guidance to us, obviously, because they have also gotten rid of the self, the ego, right? They have no particular motive or agenda for wanting to leave behind these teachings for others people to learn from and to try to also achieve what they've achieved, right? So we know then that what their teachings are, you can say are obviously are good, and it's the truth, okay? Because they've been there, done that, and they've accomplished it. And therefore they should know, okay? And whereas we are still struggling, we're not, and confused, and maybe not knowing where to go or what the direction should be, and therefore, we can't be certain of what the truth is. But we can always rely on, so that's why I like the scriptures. We say the scriptures or the sutras. These are things that we should definitely, we can rely on those to learn the truth from them, okay? Because the saints, sages, and immortals, or Buddhas, are people who have attained the Tao, they become enlightened, right? Their teachings can represent the truth, the Tao, and the truth. Right? Furthermore, every word and sentence came from their Buddha nature. Right? The teachings are from the enlightened mind after discarding the causes of sentient beings. So their words are the sutras and classics, true guidance from the Buddha nature, true guiding light. true navigational guide to return to heaven. So basically, right, their teachings, even though, their teachings come in words, and words, it depends on how we don't want to, let's put it this way, we don't want to be attached to the forms of words, right? Words are forms. And forms, all forms are limited, right? We know that in words, in language is limited to, and it's kind of developed through culture, that culture, okay? Because every culture is different, and therefore the languages are different. They might emphasize certain things, and it's all based on culture, okay? So therefore, so we have to be careful when we look at words, and we have to go beyond the surface meaning of the words to get to the true essence, the true meaning, right? Because if we look at the words themselves, sometimes we see in some scriptures that say, well, they're talking about this old tradition that they had, but that's looking at it on the surface without really truly understanding what's underneath, what the underlying true meaning or intent was, right? So that's what we need to get to. I mean, if you think about it, scriptures, it should be holy, right? And they should be about spiritual stuff. It's talking about things that are spiritual for the most. It should be, right? And so if we read the scripture and it seems to be talking about very mundane stuff. Oh, this is how you're supposed to, slaughter the animal so that you don't eat the blood. Does that even make sense? I mean, I don't know. That's part of a tradition, okay? But really, we have to look beyond that. If it's scripture should not be. I mean, if the words are coming from the saints, sages, Buddhas, I mean, they should not be very talking about mundane stuff. That's really not what that's not how we're going to become enlightened, right? So just like these 15 temple rules and regulations, right? It's not about mundane stuff. So the general or the surface meaning of this one, for example, do not discard holy teachings. We say, oh yeah, we have the printed word, right? We have the scriptures, we have the books. We shouldn't discard those. Yeah, that's very mundane, don't you think? I mean, that can apply to any books. But it's really, don't discard the essence of the teachings. Okay, so all right, so so that's why we have to basically understand the teachings and accept the teachings and always keep them in mind and learn from them and put them into practice. That's really what this is about. Okay. And that's the only way, for us to return to heaven, right? Because that's what they're talking about. They're talking about returning to heaven, not talking about how to have a better life in this world or to have a better next life in this world. That's pointless. That's anyone can talk about that, okay? But that's why we listen to or learn from the saints, sages, and Buddhas, because we're not interested in that. We're interested in transcending this cycle of birth, death, rebirth, okay, returning to heaven, right? So therefore, Holy Teacher says, disciples, holy teachings are so respected and precious. How can we not cherish them, deeply understand them, and put them into practice? Okay. So here, Holy Teacher kind of breaks down so the first two, wuqi, is basically do not discard, means not to abandon, not to disregard, not to take lightly, but to practice accordingly. All right, so it's kind of like a loaded thing. I mean, when we say, do not discard, seems very simple, but it's rather loaded, has a lot of meaning. Okay, because all the scriptures, sutras, and classics are the heart blood and merciful words of Buddhas. So naturally, Buddhas and immortals are protecting them. right? There's the hufa, right? They kind of protect, right? There's the guardians of the law, of the dharma, okay? Anyways, so we have to keep them in mind at all times, right? As long as we have an upright heart and mind and are sincere, then invisible forces can bless and protect us and can help us avoid evil, misfortune. Right? So how can we so easily disregard and discard them? Right? The thing is, I think maybe problem is either we don't understand fully what the teachings are about. That's why we say, this doesn't seem to, it's not helping me. Okay, that we kind of say, forget it. I'm not going to try to learn any more of this. I'm not going to try to practice. Or we're very impatient, where we take some teachings and we try to put in practice, but then we say, hey, how come there's no result? How come things aren't better for me? Again, that's the wrong attitude. Okay, that's all the wrong attitude again. All right, so first of all, nothing says, again, this is not about making my life materially better, right? None of the holy scriptures is not about that, right? It's about our spiritual life. Okay, so we have to make that clear. We have to be clear about that. All right, what is cultivation about? Is it to make my material life better so that I can have a more comfortable life, more money, more whatever? That's not what it's about. All right, so that's sometimes maybe we forget that, and so then we end up with the wrong view, the wrong attitude. Then that will definitely cause us it becomes a big obstacle, and we probably will not be able to succeed in cultivation and achieving the final goal of enlightenment. All right, so and since the holy teachings guide sentient beings on the path to becoming saints and sages, and if disciples do not put them into practice, then how can we succeed in becoming immortals? What's more, the Buddhas are greatly compassionate and kind, giving thought to the great matter of our life and death, working so hard for us. How can we bear to disappoint so easily and not put them into practice? Yeah, it really is, we really, if we start on, most people, let's say, they don't even bother with the spiritual stuff, so that we're not talking about them. But for us, if we have an interest, we have that, we want to become like the Buddhas, achieve nirvana, then we cannot disappoint them, because the Buddhas, the saints, sages, they left behind their teachings, their guidance for us, so that we can also succeed. All right, and so if we don't put it into practice, if we don't learn, we don't understand the teachings, and we don't therefore we don't practice it, and we don't diligently practice it, then we've kind of, I don't want to say exactly we wasted their time and effort, but we kind of did. We definitely wasted our own time and effort. Okay. Because we're not really into it. We're not dedicated to really succeeding. All right, so definitely don't disappoint not just them, don't disappoint ourselves, don't disappoint our ancestors. Okay, our ancestors are also waiting to see if we can succeed, right? Because they depend on us, on our virtues and merits, for them to be able to transcend life and death, right? So therefore, do not discard holy teachings is to experience the compassion of the Buddhas, to clearly understand the meaning of the teachings, and finally to practice accordingly. Right? Only then can we become immortals ourselves. Right? So this is very important. Again, we have to learn from the Buddhas and try to emulate them, in practice. So again, the practice is very important. So not just book learning. This all should be very practical stuff. Okay, that we can apply in our everyday lives. Right? We may not think too much about it. Oh, it's like, oh, these things, but these are, you can say, these rules, they're a reminder to us to realize that, we do need to put these things into practice in our lives. Okay. Right, so holy teachings are not only formal scriptures, sutras, and classics, but also any guidance given by Buddhas. Right, so this is, so not just the scriptures and sutras, the books left behind by the ancient sages and saints, but also any modern day, let's say, today, we have, when we have channeling in our temple, right, the Buddhist channel, or the Buddhas, immortals, and saints and sages, they channel and they teach us, they give guidance. Now, of course, part of it, we also type them up, and so they do become like books, modern scriptures, if you will. But also, if they just give us a few words of guidance personally, let's say, to the individual, those are also holy teachings, and we should really take it to heart, right? And so anytime that we get that kind of teaching, it's, the Buddhas are very merciful in addressing us individually and addressing our issues, the issues that we have in the areas that we need to improve in. We should really cherish that guidance, right? And definitely always keep it in mind, and definitely understand what it is that they're talking about, and really practice, okay, to work on it. Whatever the guidance is, that we should follow it, okay? And that is really the holy teaching. So that's another type of holy teaching. You might say that that's a little bit informal, okay? But we can't discard that. All right, don't disregard it, because it's very important. Because the Buddhas, they know, right? They you can say that they are all knowing, all seeing, right? They know our karma, they know our affinity, they know everything, and so they know our situation, what's in our heart and mind, and they can talk to us directly about that. But we have to be aware. We have to realize what they're talking about. Okay, sometimes we think, the Buddha said this to me, holy teacher said this to me. What does this have to do? Then that means that we're really not aware of our own self. That in areas that maybe we are not, that we are deficient in, that we need to improve in. Okay, so this is, we have to do more self-reflection, more introspection. Right. Again, that's a very important aspect of cultivation, always. All right. Okay, so the spirit of the rule is in taking the holy teachings to heart, right? Basic meaning is not discarding the books, etc. Right? So we have to understand the holy teachings and practice accordingly. Do not use the holy teachings to criticize others also. So sometimes we, during these channeling, right, the holy teacher will talk about something, or maybe even say something to others, but we should definitely not use their words, the Buddha's words, the holy teachings, to then criticize someone. We can say, oh, okay, so this is what holy teacher is talking about here. This is how we, address this or improve in this area of cultivation, right? But really, we have to take everything that they say, all their teachings and guidance, and apply it to ourselves. That's, so this is the self-reflection, the introspection, right? We take the teachings even when the holy teacher is talking to someone in particular and saying, oh, this, they have to do something, or they should do something to help their situation. We should take that and know how to apply it to ourselves too. right? And then, but we shouldn't take that and say, oh yeah, see, look, holy teacher said this to you. You got. I mean, if we're trying to encourage someone and guide someone, we can obviously share that, talk about that with them. But don't do it in a way that it's like criticism. We want to help someone. Okay, so we shouldn't criticize. But mostly, we have to kind of reflect on ourselves, right? Always apply it to ourselves, right? So it's important that we recognize and understand all, the principles. Today there are scriptures and also there are fake scriptures. Okay, so this is something that's I don't know. Maybe throughout history there may have been fake copies of some of the scriptures, but today I think that's could be more of a problem. We have the internet. It's so easy to copy things and then to change them, and then just to post it out on the internet, and everyone can see it, and it becomes dangerous. Okay, so it's harder to take it's harder to fake the sutras and classics since they have been around a long time and many people are familiar with them, right? So, however, when we have recent scriptures through channeling, right, we have to be careful and be able to distinguish truth from fiction. Right? Generally, we want to know the who, the where, and the when of a scripture, right? Which Buddha spoke these words, right? In which temple was it spoken, and when was it spoken, right? So with the internet, social media, and chat apps, people disseminate so-called scriptures, but most of them do not have the complete information. Right? Ultimately, we have to see what is being said, whether it's true, right? Or does it follow the true principles that we already know from the other scriptures, all right? Does it conflict with the true principles of Tao or contradict earlier teachings? In general, all the holy teachings are about doing good, right? Changing for the better, benefiting others, and seeking the truth and Buddha nature, right? To transcend the cycle of rebirth, right? We do not use what we know. We not only use what we know and have learned, but we also have to use our wisdom. We also must dig beyond the superficial meaning and gain insight and understand it in the proper context. Okay, there are cases of people kind of writing, creating a so-called scripture, and it looks like a real scripture, but it wasn't written by those weren't the words of a Buddha. Okay, so some person wrote them, and it's not entirely hard to do, right? Because you can just grab pieces of scripture, and so it looks right, but then they can add other stuff to it, change some things, and if we're not familiar with it, then we might think, and if we don't have that foundation of you can say of the understanding of the principles of the truth, then we might be misled by it. Okay, so we have to be careful. The other thing that I would point out is that Buddhas generally they talk about principles. They pretty much at least 99% of the time it's just about principles, right? They don't talk about specific methods of doing something, right? Because those things can change. Methods can change. But the principle is, you can say, is absolute. The principle doesn't change, never changes. And therefore that means it's the truth. Okay, something that never changes is the truth, right? But when you apply, so generally they don't talk about a specific application of the principle. I mean, they might mention something, say specifically in a specific situation, this is what you do, but you can't really generalize that, all right? The generalization is the principle. Okay, that's the generalization. But we have to know how to apply that principle in every situation, in different situations. And when you apply it, then it's the method could be different. Okay, so this is something that that's why this is part of the reason we don't want to be attached to forms, right? Methods are forms. The principle is not a form. The principle is the truth. It's this abstract truth. Okay, and so we have to know and understand that principle, that truth, and then using our wisdom, using and partly our experience, how to apply that principle in any kind of situation, right? So that's the key. Number 9. This is do not be attached to forms and appearances. Okay, so this kind of is follows from that, what I was just saying. So basically, do not cling to the external form and be blinded by it. All right, and unfortunately, so one of the things that we have to be aware, we have to realize that, like I said, methods, ways of doing things, these are all forms. Okay, so these are not absolute. Just like I'm saying, compassion is an absolute principle, but when you apply it, it may not be absolute. Okay, it will depend on the situation, right? To a certain extent. I mean, it depends. You can say you depend on the affinity, the karma, all that, right? On the conditions. Okay, so don't get stuck on a particular method, on a particular way, on a particular specific practice. These are not absolute, right? So the absolute is the principle itself, all right. So don't be blinded by these forms. So anything, because anything that has a form or appearance are not the ultimate reality, right? They're impermanent and will ultimately be destroyed and become empty. Okay, so so just the same thing. What we say that the Dharma, we cannot have that attachment to Dharma. Dharma is a specific teaching, right? It could be the words, the teaching, but we should not be. Again, I guess we have to take. The teachings, they do talk about principles, but we have to make sure that we get to that level of, the essence of the teachings, which is the principles. Okay, so the teachings themselves, again, the words, those are forms, and if we can't get stuck on those. So just like saying when we use some particular dharma, some teaching, some method, and generally that would mean some method to accomplish something. Just like we cross the boat, the water on a boat, right? That the boat is like the Dharma, the teaching, that gets us across the water to the other shore. Well, once we get to the land again, right? This boat is not useful. Okay, so the boat doesn't work on land. Right? It's not useful on land. Therefore, we have to let go of that. If we become attached to that, then that becomes an obstacle. We can't make any progress on land if we're pulling this boat along, right? So the same. That's the idea. Okay. The Diamond Sutra said, right? All forms and appearances are false. Right? If we can view all forms as without form, then we have seen the Tathagata, or basically the essence, the true nature. Okay. Therefore, if we cannot get rid of the forms and are still fascinated by them, then our mind is still in the lower realms of reality, the physical and spiritual realms, right? We have kind of like the 3 general levels, the physical realm that we're in, then there's like the Qi Tian, which is the spirit, I call it the spiritual realm, and then the Li Tian, which is the realm, the true reality, the realm of truth, okay? And we cannot enter the realm of true reality. Okay, so the reason why the ignorant and inverted sentient beings cannot be truly liberated is that they are still bound, right? They're shackled or chained by external forms. The heart and mind is a slave to forms, and the true self, or the Buddha nature, cannot be the master, right? When our mind, when we become enslaved by the forms, through our, right, the 5 sense consciousnesses, right? Then that's the whole thing with the 5 skandhas, right? Then the Buddha nature cannot be the master. So naturally, all sentient beings will always be wandering in the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Right? That's why it's so important, to understand, the Buddha nature, to study the Buddha nature, so that we can let go of forms, no attachment to forms. We realize, when we can realize our Buddha nature, then we have no attachment to anything in this world. And once we have no attachment to anything in this world, then to any of these, those two lower realms, the physical realm or even the spiritual realm, then we're not bound by them. We can transcend. Okay. So it is not merely not to be attached to the form of Buddha channeling through the holy medium, but to realize the true principles and profound meaning of their teachings. Right? At a higher level, it is for the heart and mind not to be aroused, and for the Buddha nature to be in charge in any situation. Right. So a lot of times, now, especially when we do have the channeling, and actually, that's being reduced again, because Holy Teacher knows that people are getting stuck on forms, and so that the channeling, that's part of the reason, anyways. The channeling, people do get stuck on it. Especially, it's not like the new people that see it for the first time. It's people who've been around for many years, and they've seen it a lot for many years. That they're stuck on. Oh, the channeling. We have to have channeling. The channeling. Then basically they become attached to that form. Okay, and they're and it's kind of unfortunate, because that means then that they're not relying on their own Buddha nature, and they're not relying on their own wisdom. All right, and which is what Holy Teacher keeps telling us, that we have to rely on our Buddha nature, on our own wisdom. Don't rely on these external forms. The channeling is really they do it reluctantly. I mean, the Buddhas are doing it reluctantly, as a something of a last resort, as a way to kind of teach us, guide us. Because unfortunately, we just don't have that kind of wisdom yet, not that enlightened that we can guide ourselves, and therefore they use that method. But ultimately, they would rather not use that method, okay, where possible. Okay. So for the heart and mind, right, not to be aroused, right? Remember, say, don't give rise to a single thought, right? Let go of all karmic affinities. That's basically what this is saying. That don't let anything stir or perturb the mind. Okay, and usually that would be things, external things that are conditions happening. But the Buddha nature is doesn't get disturbed or perturbed by anything. Right? It's our human heart and mind that gets disturbed and aroused, and so we have to kind of make sure that we aren't aroused by anything. Okay. So disciples always say impartiality is the middle way, which is when the Buddha nature manifests, right? So yeah, impartiality, you say unbiased, so you can say, we can also say equanimity. Okay, so that is, we have to get rid of the forms in order to achieve that, though, right? It's only when we are attached to forms, then we have like and dislike duality, that we have partiality, we have bias. Okay, so to get to impartiality, unbiased, then we have to get rid of those attachments, right? And then only when we don't have those attachments, then the Buddha nature will manifest itself. Okay. All right, so when the mind is pure, quiescent, and spontaneous, right, without motive, what I mean by spontaneous here is the wu wei, right? The Buddha nature spontaneity, there is no unconditional, you can say, has no motive. Right? It's unbiased, it's not attached to anything, no forms. It's not defiled or aroused by external factors. It's not seeking anything. This is the middle way, right? The manifestation of Buddha nature. So not to be attached to forms and appearances is the manifestation of the true self, right? Otherwise, to be attached to forms is never to attain Tao. So very important here. if we have any kind of attachments to forms, well, basically that's any kind of attachment, right? We can never attain the Tao, right? We can never become a Buddha, right? A Buddha, right? It says here, the Buddha nature, manifestation of Buddha nature, when there is no attachment, nothing, right? So therefore, and that's basically becoming a Buddha. So we have to, we cannot have any attachment, right? And having attachments, depending on the attachments, that will cause us to, again, well, if we don't become a Buddha, then we're still going to be stuck in this cycle of reincarnation, all right? So we must know the difference between true and false, right? Eternal and impermanent, constant and changing. All phenomena is false, right? Because they are impermanent and changing. Even the human conscious mind is false because it is constantly changing. Right? The only thing that is true is the Bodhi mind, the Buddha mind, right? The essence, the true self, the Buddha nature. A common person knows things but does not know the principles. An educated person knows the principles but does not know how to apply them. Right? A saint knows the principles and how to apply them. Right? So things are tangible and truth and principles are intangible. Right? So we want to be like the saint and sage, that we can know the principles, and also not just know them, but be able to apply them and apply them appropriately. Okay, not just like we don't want to be the person who's just kind of has book learning. They learned it, but they don't know how to apply it. Or worse, the common person who doesn't even know the principles at all. Okay, so that's the worst. But yeah, so as a saint, sage, that's we should emulate them, and therefore we should definitely know the principles and then know how to apply them. Okay, so what is meant by cultivating with attachments, right? So here, okay, there are cultivators, right, who cultivate with having attachments. So this could be like sitting meditation, right? Accepting the false as true, reciting, reading the sutras without sincerity, following the conditions of things, right? Attachment to attainment, attachment to merit, great selfishness, right? So even though we might say, we're cultivating, but if we have these types of attachments, those are attachments still, right? So when we're cultivating, we cannot have any attachment. Even when saints and sages come to this world, they risk becoming attached to forms. And when they do become ordinary sentient beings, so when they do become ordinary sentient beings and are subject to reincarnation, right? On the contrary, if a sentient being is not attached to the environment, not attached to forms, not misled by the environment, has the virtue of heaven and earth, is as bright as the sun and moon, follows the natural order of things, is a saint and sage. So yeah, actually, even though saints, sages, even maybe bodhisattvas, arhats, when they reincarnate, when they come into this world, you come into this world as a sentient being. Now, and we still have to become enlightened, still have to practice. Of course, if they have a stronger foundation, based on past cultivation, then it's likely that they can succeed. But still, there's a chance that they'll fall into the abyss, basically be tripped up, be confused in this world again, and they basically become a sentient being and fall into reincarnation again, and that's the big danger. Okay, so that's so we have to be careful. So, but we as sentient beings, on the other hand, not having the attachments, then we can then become a saint, sage, or a sage. Okay. So a cultivator who has relinquished attachments to fame and fortune, but has an attachment to merit and subject-object duality, right, the four images, is still attached, right? So we say, I'm cultivating, I perform lots of merits, right? I donate lots of money, I ferry lots of people, right? But they have this attachment to the merit, getting the merit, then that's still an attachment. and that could probably, well, I think you said before that, yeah, that's likely to reduce, discount those merits, for one, but ultimately we may not be able to attain the Tao, succeed in the end. Okay, so we have to do things wu wei, right, and also sui yan. Okay, so without motives and attachments. So forms and appearances are illusions of human existence. If we are attached to them, then we are in the world. Right? If we are not attached, then we are in heaven. Right? And not attached to forms, but not complete emptiness is heaven. Okay, so well, yeah. So basically, we don't have to be, or yeah, I guess maybe the way maybe that's translated, it could be said that when we're to not be attached to forms that's the nature of heaven, or to be attached to forms, that's the nature of this world. Okay, so all right. Okay, so because of time, that's we finished number 9. So we'll stop it here. If I had said anything wrong or not satisfactory, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness, and also I asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.